Hello and welcome to another video on simplifying surds. So if you haven't already done so, I encourage you to watch the previous video on this topic where I introduced you to the process of how we simplify surds. So in this video, we're just going to get a bit more practice with this skill. So I've got 10 questions here that I'm going to go through, but before I go through them with you, I encourage you to pause the video and give them a go yourself first. Now up here I've just put down the rule that we use to help us with simplifying surds. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So the first one is the square root of 24. So we want to simplify this. Now if we think about up here, what two numbers multiply together to get 24? And remember, one of them has to be a square number. So we could use 2 times 12, but none of those are square numbers. Or we could use 4 times 6. The other number would be 8 times 3, but none of those are square numbers as well. So instead of writing 24, I can write that is the same as the square root of 4 times 6. And now we can break this down into the square root of 4 multiplied by the square root of 6. And now we can evaluate the square root of 4. Well, that's just 2. So this just becomes 2 times the square root of 6, or just 2 root 6. Okay, let's go on to question 2. So the square root of 63, well, straight away I can see that 63 is 9 times 7, and 9 is a square number, so that works out quite nicely. So this is the square root of 9 times 7, and then we can break this down into the square root of 9 multiplied by the square root of 7. And the square root of 9 we can evaluate, well, that is just 3, so this is going to be 3 times the square root of 7. Okay, moving on to question 3. Square root of 45, well, that is 9 times 5. So it's going to be the square root of 9 times 5. And then let's break that down into the square root of 9 times the square root of 5. This one's very similar to the previous question. So the square root of 9 is 3. So this is 3 root 5. Okay, question 4. The square root of 40. So 40, well, 40 is 8 times 5, but none of those are square numbers. So I'm going to have to use 4 times 10 instead. So 4 times 10 also gives me 40. So this is going to be the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. And the square root of 4 is 2, so this is going to be 2 root 10. So hopefully you can see for all of these examples, I'm doing exactly the same thing. So it's quite a nice process. Okay, the next one, 200. Well, this number, although it's quite big, I know that 200 is 100 times 2, and 100 is a square number. So this is going to be 100 times 2, and now we can break that down into the square root of 100 times the square root of 2. And the square root of 100 is 10, so this just becomes 10 root 2. Okay, moving on to question 6. So 75, well, that is 25 times 3. So 25 times 3. So this is going to be the square root of 25 times the square root of 3. And the square root of 25 is 5. So this is 5 root 3. Okay, question 7. The square root of 60. So 10 times 6 isn't going to work because neither of those are square numbers. What else could we have? 2 times 30. Well, none of those are square numbers. 4 times 15. 4 times 15 looks like it's a viable candidate because 4 is a square number. So this is going to be the square root of 4 times the square root of 15. And the square root of 4 is 2. So this is 2 root 15. Okay, question 8, we've got 125. Now I can see that this is divisible by 25, so this is going to be 25 times 5. So it's the square root of 25 times the square root of 5. And the square root of 5 is 5, so this becomes 5 root 5. Okay, we're almost done. We've got 2 questions left. So 80, well, this is 40 times 2. We could do 20 times 4, which would work, but I can see that 16 is also a factor of 80. So let me just write down the 2 options we could have chosen. So we could do 16 times 5. That does give us 80. Or we could also do 4 times 20. That also gives us 80. And notice we've got 16 and 4. They're both square numbers. Now I'm going to choose the top one. And I spoke about this in the previous video. Always choose the factor pair with the largest square number. It just because it makes your life a lot easier. With this one, you will then have to simplify the square root of 20 after as well. So this one here is the one that I'm going to choose. So this now becomes the square root of 16 times the square root of 5. And the square root of 16 is 4. So this is 4 root 5. Okay, the last one, we have 1,000. Well, 1,000 is 100 times 10. So this is the square root of 100 times the square root of 10. And the square root of 100 is 10. So this is going to be 10 root 10. So how did you get on with those 10 questions? I know this video was probably quite boring compared to some of my other videos, but it's good practice to get simplifying with surds. So in the next video, we will be combining this with multiplying surds to see if we can have a go at doing some slightly more complicated arithmetic with surds. So hopefully you'll join me for that. And thanks again for watching. Take care.